was your job strategy to search to find investment banking internship?
Yeah, well, it started with first kind of identifying like where I wanted to work. So the major hubs that would provide me a really good investment banking experience. And I found that to be, San Francisco, Chicago, New York City, potentially Houston, even if I wanted to work in oil and gas. But I narrowed down, at one point I was just going everywhere and kind of just applying to any place I could. But it started getting more refined and more directed when I started seeking advice from people from different business clubs that I was a part of, and some alumni that was from my university that was giving me good direction. And basically what I was doing was I was cold emailing companies that I would find from Google and just basically create an Excel worksheet. Each tab was a different city. Each column was a different person. Each row was a different company. And then I was just finding people's names and emails and then reaching out to them. That's like the grunt way of doing things and like really going head on. Another way is to apply for something I did, diversity, a lot of diversity camps, any type of undergraduate exposure that you can attain from a bulge bracket firm or middle market firm that will basically fly you out. They'll go through like kind of a 2-day sort of hosting you and kind of giving you exposure to all lines of businesses within the bank. And then you take that opportunity to then network with the line of business you want, which is, in my case, investment banking. That's another way. Those are mainly the two ways that I could think of right now, other than just straight up applying, looking at top firms that I was interested in that I already had maybe my foot in the door with. Not foot in the door in the sense that I had like an experience, but I knew some people that would push my resume forward.
Thank you so much for such a wonderful answer, John. So we would love to know your views, like 3 tips to make your resume noticeable for investment banking roles.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, they forget that the resume is not being looked at very as thorough as they might think. And when I say that, I mean that the resume on average is looked at for about 15 to 30 seconds. And it's very quick. Especially when you have 6,000 applicants, like a lot of bulge brackets, sometimes more, that they get just for specific lines of businesses within specific roles. So you want to make sure that you're quantifying your resume. I found that to be really, really helpful for mine when a lot of feedback that I've received in the past was, make sure you're inserting numbers. But at the same time, make sure you can back up those numbers. Just like a quick story. I remember I was in an interview. This was like when I first started out. I mean, I was trying to get anything I could get my hands on, like any type of experience. And I had on my resume, like up the revenue by 12, something like this. It wasn't necessarily like verbatim, but increased company revenue by 12% weekly off of their $3,000. I don't know. I was just putting numbers in there, and the interviewer called me out. I was like, "Oh, how did you get this information? Like, did you get like weekly emails about this, or did you have access to like a lot of private information?" And I was like, well, so like make sure you're like backing up the numbers that you have, and like they're actually tangible. Another thing would be like attaining relevant experience. That really helps, especially for investment banking where it's very competitive, and you have a lot of people that come from not necessarily more advantageous backgrounds, but speaking from FIU, that's a non-target university. You have to really hustle to get something that's financial services related, so that you can attest to saying this is kind of why I want investment banking, not like just coming from, like I said earlier, like a server background, just working in a restaurant and then trying to move to investment banking, trying to attain some relevant experience. And then lastly, I think it's just make sure it's very well structured. Some people, they just get their templates from online, and it's like they want to do 3 pages. And investment banking, if in any role, they're not within financial services, they're going to look 30 seconds at your resume. So for 3 pages, you're going to be like knocked off the plate like by the computer. So yeah, I would say those are the three key elements.
Superb. Thank you. So what do you think, which 5 topics or subjects did you focus to prepare yourself for investment banking internship interviews?
Yeah, I think like there was quite a few topics that I was preparing for um before when I went to my IB interviews. Just depended on the firm. I remember when it was like my preparation from a topic standpoint was different when I was interviewing with an elite boutique versus a bulge bracket versus this place in Miami, Brickell area that's like lower than middle market, I would say, or maybe like lower middle market maybe. And I think like it varies, but something that like would help all around is definitely like understanding the company. That's one topic. A technical aspect, so knowing valuation, your accounting, um, just kind of business analysis as a whole, in case they throw any other types of questions out there that doesn't relate to the prior two that I mentioned. Um, Also, knowing your resume is very important. Like, you know, having a good resume is one thing, but knowing it like the back of your hand, remembering your experiences, remembering being able to talk about each one, because they're going to dive very deep into that. So those are three. And I think also understanding like the current M&A landscape, and kind of being able to talk about a few deals that you know of, because they're going to gauge your interest based off of the knowledge of the company. That's one. First and foremost, they want to know, like, are you even interested in working at for us? And then like, why are you interested in working in banking? And then if you're able to tie in certain deals that have happened into your why I want to investment banking, that's really helpful. And then really focusing on like behavioral questions. I think that would be the fifth component, um, which basically is like, why, like, tell me about three strengths, give me three weaknesses, tell me about a time you succeeded, a time you failed, you know, walk me through your resume and tell me about a time you worked in a team. Those kind of questions I was definitely focusing on. And those would be the factors, the five factors.